So lab number 19, creating templates. This also deals with customization of our templates. So the first part of our lab is actually making sure that we have our sysprep material pulled out. So how we do that is we go ahead and mount the Windows XP Pro disk, which I've already done. We're going to explore it. We're going to be going to Support, Tools, and we're actually looking at this Deploy tab. And we're actually going to copy all of these to a specific folder. If you do not have one of the disks, for whatever reason, you can download all of the sysprep items from VMware's website. I was able to take one of the knowledge base articles. All you have to do is search vcenter sysprep files and you'll get this article, and it will walk you through the same steps and locations. One of the things I wanted to point out was it said we want to put it here. All user profile, that's a wildcard mask for program data, VMware Virtual Center /sysprep. So that's what we're going to go ahead and do. We're going to copy all of these to program data. It's a hidden folder, so make sure to unhide it so that we can go there. VMware Virtual Center, and we're going to be putting this in sysprep. Now we're specifically putting it in XP because we're sysprepping XP. If you are sysprepping one of the different operating systems, you'd put them in the correct location. So once they are here, let's go ahead and open up our vCenter. One of the important parts with that functionality there, if we do not include sysprep there, we will not be able to customize our templates. You can use new SID to generate new SIDs for our templates, but it's not quite the same as being able to deploy a customized template. You may get an evaluation notice, it's okay. So from our vCenter, I already had single sign-on created, so go ahead and get into it. We're going to go to our hosts and clusters. We're actually going to be making our XP Pro SIA a template. So how we do that is we can right click on it and let's find template, and we're going to convert to a template. You'll notice that it will disappear. That's because these are just for our virtual machines. So let's go back home. Let's go to VM and templates, and you'll see that the icon has changed. That's because the VMX file changed from a VMX to a VMXT. That way it would denote, sorry, a VMTX, not VMXT, but VMTX. That way it denotes that it's a template and not a virtual machine. So once we have this, how can we customize it so that we can quickly deploy from our templates? Well, if we want to be able to do this without any customization, we can do it, leave it just like this. Right click, deploy virtual machine, and that's it. But what happens if we want to be able to deploy this with some certain predefined settings or customizations? Let's go ahead and go home. Here we're actually going to be opening up our customization specialization manager, and we're going to be doing a new customization. We're going to call this XP Answer. Normally I'd say leave a description. Our target machine, right now we only have the options for Windows or Linux. We could actually also supply a sysprep answer file, which we're not going to. We're just going to build our own through vCenter. Go and hit next. Do the name of the user. Do the organization. Here, I actually want it to be the virtual machine's name. So when I do the deployment, I want it to actually prompt me for the name. So I'm going to go ahead and use the virtual machine's name. Product key. So I have a demo product key, and I'm gonna go ahead and put that in. Because we're dealing with XP, we actually have to sadly put in a key. With Windows 7 or above, you do not have to. That way it will just go not activated. 76K to J8. It's not a server, so we don't need to include server license info. You could do a password if you'd like. I would recommend doing an administrator password for our VMs. For my environment, I don't need to, so I'm going to go ahead and click yes. I know that we don't want to normally do blank passwords. I'm in PST, so I want -8. You could do run once commands if you needed to. You could do customize settings, domain settings, again, if you need to. I highly recommend make sure to generate a new SID for every new VM that you're doing. And that's it. Double check your settings and we are good to go. So now we have our template already created. So I'm going to go back home. Now, how do we deploy using that? I just realized something. I want to modify one more additional setting. So I'm going to go back to my answer file. What I specifically want to do is it did not give any options for hard drive storage, so I just wanted to make sure. Alright, so how we do that is let's go to our templates. Let's go ahead and deploy from this template. We're going to go ahead and name this XP Pro A. Add it to our data center. Put it to the host that you'd like. For my environment, I'm going to be doing it on iSCSI 2, but you'd go ahead and put it wherever you'd like. You could click on Advanced. We could actually pull from our configuration file if we set it. We didn't set it, so we're not going to deal with it. I wanted to show you that with the configuration files, we can get pretty dang involved. Now notice we get our customization. Before we would not if we did not do the sysprep. So actually I want to go ahead and customize using the customization wizard. You'll notice that it's already there. So if we didn't want to pre-do our customization, we would have this option right here. But since we already did a customization, we're actually going to choose the third option, use an existing. Go ahead and hit next, and it will then go ahead and pull from this. And within probably a few minutes, we will have our virtual machine up and ready to go. So one of the issues with this type of environment is sometimes with the nested VMs we have an issue, and within this lab our template failed to create even though it did generate the new virtual machine. It did not sysprep it correctly, so things like the name didn't quite change. However, this in a non-nested virtual environment, I have tested and I know works 100%. We're going to go forward just so I can show you kind of that the names didn't change. Even though the customization portion for the hard drive threw an error, it still looks like it's going to go ahead and load. one of the big issues is I'm doing this inside of a nested virtual environment. So I'm doing all of this through Workstation, and through Workstation I've virtualized other virtual machines. So these are actually nested machines, and I have noticed that, first of all, VMware does not support this. It can be done, but not always the best idea. But for our infrastructure, this was the best way to do some of this training. It does throw some random errors for who knows why, but this seemed to actually to work. The actual boot process for the XP machine is the first time does take a few minutes, just because, again, it did sysprep it. And I want to make sure things like the name is set up correctly. We may have to reinstall VMware tools. That's been one issue that I have noticed quite often, is VMware tools doesn't install. It did not like the naming, so actually it did keep the XP Pro C name. So the sysprep did not fully function,